coming out with cancer, going back home again, going for their checkup and cured.
It's a clear night, there's no clouds or anything, and the moon and the stars, it's beautiful. I said, what's wrong with you? And he was holding on to me. He says, Paul, I can see Our Lady in the trees.
Came with 2 weeks to live. The clock had ticked down to 2 weeks according to the doctors. I went back to the doctors, they did all the tests, and they said that the Crohn's disease had totally disappeared.
Oče naš, jednom smo pitali Gospe, ma draga Gospe, zašto si tako lijepa?
When they asked her once, like, why you are so beautiful?
A Gospa je govorila, lijepa sam zato što ljubim.
And then Our Lady says, I am beautiful because I love.
On the 24th of June 1981, as 6 children from a small village in Bosnia-Herzegovina were walking in the hills, they witnessed something that would change their lives and the lives of millions forever. They said a bright light illuminated the sky, and there, floating above the hill before them, was the figure of a beautiful woman. This figure spoke to the children, telling them that she was the Blessed Virgin Mary, sent from God, with the gospel message of conversion. News of the apparitions quickly spread, and within days 15,000 pilgrims converged on the tiny village. Unlike the apparitions in Lourdes, Fatima and Knock, where Mary appeared only for a short time, these visions have continued to the present day. They have endured a communist regime, bitterly opposed to the Catholic Church, a bloody civil war where thousands were killed, yet the village remained unscathed, and ongoing skepticism from the Vatican, who refused to authenticate the visionaries' claims even after the children were subjected to extensive scientific tests. Despite these overwhelming obstacles, millions of pilgrims continue to flock to the shrine. This is their story. This is Medjugorje.
People come here and they're touched and their lives are changed because they find something that the world cannot give. And my faith was much strengthened through Medjugorje.
People with drug addictions, alcohol addictions, they're going up to Our Lady's shrine, praying to Our Lady. They're going home. I've had personal problems myself. I have came here, I've prayed to Our Lady and I've went home. They're gone. How can you explain that? She's here for us, she brings us here.
The peace out here, an inner peace, a peace inside me, along with all the turmoil and fear and stress that I was going to be okay. I put a lot of it onto the faith I was given here. I've always had some faith, but it just felt stronger and more alive.
Medjugorje to me is a wee bit of heaven on earth. And if anyone wants to find their God, I advise them to take a wee trip out to Medjugorje and speak to Jesus' mother, and she'll surely help them on their way to her son.
It's a phenomenon. No other apparition in the history of the church has ever lasted so long. Lourdes, Fatima, I mean, even our own knock was 6 hours. But where do you start with 28 years? Especially when the visions are still taking place.
The visionaries have a message for the world. They are to urge people towards prayer, conversion, fasting, penance, and peace. While some of the visionaries only receive the message annually, 3 of the seers still have daily apparitions. Probably the most recognized of these is Vishka Ivankovich. Vishka was only 16 years old when she claimed the Mother of God first appeared to her. She continues to see her every day.
Jednom smo pitali Gospe, ma draga Gospe, zašto si tako lijepa?
When they asked her once, like, why you are so beautiful?
A Gospa je odgovorila, lijepa sam zato što ljubim.
And then Our Lady says, I am beautiful because I love.
Ma počnite ljubiti vi da bi bili lijepi.
So you have to start loving each others in order to become
Ali
beautiful.
ta ljepota ne dolazi s vanjske strane, ona dolazi iz dubine našeg srca I duše.
And she says that beauty is not outside beauty. That beauty comes from our soul, the beauty which comes from inside.
Can you please be so kind and make a little space for Witzka that she can pass?
Following her daily apparition, Vishka is greeted by hundreds of pilgrims who wait for hours to get close to her and to hear Mary's message.
The Irish are very attracted to Witzka because she's very outgoing. I think the minute that you look at her, you see that there's something special going on in her life. And that's very evident when she prays with the pilgrims at the end of her little talk on the steps of the house. She could pray for maybe 15, 20, 25 minutes. But there's this glow about her. There's this joy that's in her.
Witzka would like to greet all of you from the bottom of her heart. And she's going to share with us the main messages what Our Lady is giving to all of us. The main messages that Our Lady is giving to us are prayer, conversion, fasting, penance, and peace.
Ali ipak bi malo I sa svojim osmijehom pokazala ljudima da to nije to ništa puno, da to nije ništa strašno.
What she sees, and it was reflected on their faces, is pain, like a pain that's visible on the eyes. And then she accepted God's will for her to be able to smile, for her to be able to show to the people that with a smile you can make so much.
Da srijedom I petkom posto kruhu I vodi, a najvažnije je što traži čvrstu vjeru.
She had a brain tumor, she's been in a coma, and all through that, even over the last number of years, she's had major problems with her back because the pilgrims, particularly the Italian ones, would be trying to touch her and would be pulling her and pull her off the steps of the house. So she has suffered, certainly in my time here in Medjugorje, with her back.
West Belfast man Reggie Donnelly began his pilgrimage 22 years ago and has been bringing thousands of Northern Ireland pilgrims ever since.
1987, I decided I would organise a pilgrimage, and I came out here, and at this time when I got in, there was no houses. The houses were little small hamlets. The women or the families got out of their beds, let you sleep in their beds, and they slept on the floor. I had 30 people, and it took me from 2 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock that morning to get them into accommodation. I had to go around rapping doors. People would say, well, I can only take 2, well, I can take 1, and that's the way we done it. I mean, you see people in that church 5 o'clock in the morning. Church never closed.
and it was just after the operation had ended, and the word M-I-R appeared across the sky in large words, large writing. Mir, 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 which means peace, peace, peace. So I had no doubt of that Medjugorje was 100% genuine.
Dublin-born David Parks had been told by his doctor that he had only 2 weeks to live when he first visited the shrine.
The good news is miracles take place. 99 pounds in weight, severe pain, bent over, gaunt, cheekbones coming through the skin of my cheeks and my eyes somewhere back here. So after 2 hours, Anne said to me, why don't you have a blessing? You've been very ill, and the doctors and that. So 2 hours later I decided I'd experience it. He placed the crucifix in my right hand, and then he dipped his thumb in the oil and he anointed me in the forehead. And then the next thing I remember was being on the ground. But in all that confusion, I hadn't realised that there was an intense burning heat in my body. And it went from the top of my head to the tips of my toes. And I'd never experienced anything like that prior to Medjugorje or since Medjugorje. But from that day to this, the aches, the pains, the vomiting and the diarrhoea instantly disappeared. Since 1989, my life has been turned upside down. This beautiful lady here entered into my life. The guys in the band who had seen me 2 days before coming out here, expecting me to come back in a coffin, they just couldn't believe that from a person who was bent over was now standing up straight. I put on 5 pounds in weight in the week that I was here in Medjugorje. The colour had come back to my cheek, my face was beginning to fill out. And 5 hardened drinking musicians cried in the Burlington Hotel because of what they've seen. And then 6 months later, then I went back singing. And then in September of 1993, I gave it all up and started doing Christian music all over the world.
I mean, the moment you get off the bus, everyone says the same thing in the village. It's this peace that they cannot explain. It's a peace that comes over them. And all their problems and difficulties, they don't seem to worry about them.
I mean, I know a lot of people come here for the visionaries because it's, you know, we're human after all. But when you arrive here, you realise it's not about the visionaries. It's just the peace. And where it's so evident, apart from the Church of St. James, is on the Apparition Hill. I mean, for me, I can almost touch the peace. It's that tangible there.
In the early years of the visions, the children were put under enormous pressure by the communist regime to retract their stories.
Reading the accounts of the early days, this first 7 days, when the police were coming after them, they had dogs. They chased them, chased through the fields, on the mountains by them. Everything to try and frighten them, to tell them,